Women's wrestling has come a long way, hasn't it? A lot of us have seen over the years how it's evolved. In the past, female wrestlers often faced significant barriers and were relegated to the sidelines. However, the landscape has dramatically changed. Today, women are not only headlining major events, but also breaking records and setting new standards for athleticism and also entertainment. WWE, AEW and NXT all have very robust women's divisions which showcase talent that rivals their male counterparts in each company. More recently, AEW has introduced some of us to some new faces which has only strengthened the position of women's wrestling in the world today. But what is the current state of women's wrestling? Where do AEW, WWE and NXT all stand? Stick around, we're going to talk about it. Women's wrestling, Kronus.
Yeah, we're back again with another deep dive.
Another deep dive. This is the current state of women's wrestling. It's quite an interesting topic, I think, given where we've been. I know we've kind of discussed women's wrestling on the individual episodes we did on WWE, NXT, and AEW. This is more of a high level general look at what the state of women's wrestling is at the moment. I think it's fair to say that it's very different from where it was over the past 20 years in various different stages.
Yeah, completely.
We've gone from the Attitude Era, which was, wasn't really women's wrestling, was it? It was women.
Yeah.
Used for entertainment purposes aimed at a very specific demographic. Now, it was purely done for entertainment purposes. I don't think it was trying to be something it wasn't. I don't think it's aged very well. Looking now when women's wrestling is taken a lot more seriously, it looks a lot worse in contrast to where we are now. So we had the Attitude Era, and then we had, I guess the next stage I want to mention is that Divas title era.
Yeah.
From like the mid 2010s onwards, which just wasn't very good, was it?
It was better from a wrestling standpoint.
Yeah.
There was more wrestling, but you could argue there was still some wrestling back in the Attitude Era with the women's title. But...
yeah, you did have people like Trish, Lita, Ivory, Jacqueline, Jazz. There were some legit, and even people like Candice Michelle, who obviously was brought in for eye candy purposes, but she actually put the work in and wanted to wrestle. Yeah. And she actually did get better. So yeah, I know what you mean. And then the Divas era, I think you're right. There was more wrestling. I don't think it was given any importance though. It didn't really feel. It didn't feel important until we had that big step up with NXT Black and Gold. So then we kind of come to the, like I just mentioned, the revolution, should we say. And I know that women's wrestling has always, probably for a bit longer, been more prominent in Japan.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Japanese women's wrestling, so I'm not really informed to comment, but from what I hear from people who do consume that content and from what I've seen on social media, it seems that it is taken more seriously as a physical level in Japan.
Yeah.
But from a North American perspective, so NXT Black and Gold kind of gave birth to, I guess you could say that was kind of the starting point, which led us to where we are now in many ways in North America.
Yeah, I think so. That's where it all started rumbling.
Yeah. So you had Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Charlotte as the kind of main three attractions. Becky Lynch was there, but I don't think she really fully came into her own until she was on the main roster, until much later. You had Asuka, you had Shayna Baszler brought in, and they kind of had a mainstream effect on North American television, seen by the masses, etc. So that was a big plus. A lot of those women went to the main roster, and they've all been, largely successful. They've all been featured high up on the cards at WrestleMania. Most of them have had big title reigns. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks have headlined WrestleMania. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey have headlined WrestleMania. So, and it's probably something we never thought we'd see happen.
Yeah, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, and especially as that was under the Vince McMahon era as well, which was probably even more surprising. So, yeah, we've come a long way from, bra and panties and mud matches to headlining WrestleMania in 20 years.
Absolutely.
Which is quite a short space of time to go from one to the other. And then AEW came along 2019. Obviously, they had to have a women's division as well. And that brought us some new faces, didn't it, to North American television?
Yeah.
We had Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, Riho. I think she was the first women's champion, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And yeah, just we were exposed to some people we hadn't seen before. Thunder Rosa was someone I hadn't seen before. And at that point, you have roster-wise, you've got a really strong women's circuit. And then you have TNA into the mix. Now, I haven't watched TNA for years, and I still don't watch TNA. But I did hear a lot of rumblings of how good the Knockouts division always was.
Yeah, that was quite decent, actually.
Yeah. So you'll probably know more about that than I do. And then you've got modern day NXT, which might be my favorite just because of the amount of importance it gets on television. It feels like less of a chore in NXT to put women on television and give them importance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, usually very well positioned. There's usually, 2, 3 at least storylines going on in the women's division. Even if they're not wrestling on the show, there'll be women's segments where those feuds are furthered. So yeah, they're definitely getting treated a lot better now.
Yeah, and I think it's that's important because they are the future. So that covers where we are now. What I thought we'd do is we'd go through the big three, should we say, AEW, WWE, and NXT, and just have a look at where each women's division currently is. So should we start with AEW?
Yeah.
Cool. Kronus, if I come to you first. So what do you think of the current state of women's wrestling in AEW in its 5-year tenure so far?
Well, you mentioned the start of it, seeing all those women that we might not have seen before. People like Britt Baker, Riho, get a name now, Nyla Rose.
Yeah.
Among others. So it started off quite well. There were really good matches, really good performers. And I think it's only grown from there. So they've added people like Chris Statlander, who I think is really, really good. Really enjoy her matches. Then you've got people like Willow, who again is amazing. You've said before you think she's probably the best women's talker at the moment.
Yeah.
And I agree completely. She's got really good character, really good in-ring work. And then, I mean, look at this feud between Toni Storm and Mariah May.
Yeah.
Just amazing. I still don't know quite how I feel about Mercedes Moan coming in. Obviously, it's a coup. It's a massive get for any women's division.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like Tony's favourite toy syndrome at the moment.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think when Mercedes was coming in, everyone was excited. And, I mean, I'll maintain she's a fantastic wrestler, one of the best in the world. I think, yeah, you're right with the women's division at the moment. Very, very happy with it. It's very good. Lots of great people in there. I agree with you. Chris Statlander, fantastic. Tony and Mariah's storyline's been great. I think it's improved a lot from, say, the last year or two.
Yeah.
I think a problem with women's wrestling in general across, WWE as well has been the booking, where it's kind of just been, even though you've got the roster, it's kind of just been as an afterthought. Like, I mean, how many times did you and me used to joke when watching Collision that there'd be a women's match halfway through the second hour? Yeah, and it'd be like clockwork.
Usually there would be.
Every single show, it would be women's match in the same spot.
Yeah.
And that's not by accident. And if you're not putting it in the main event deliberately, then there's definitely a reason you're putting it in that spot. It doesn't come across very well. And it was largely unimportant as well. So I think AEW has put a lot more importance in the storytelling in women's wrestling. Mercedes, I don't know whether she's a victim of the booking again. I've been quite vocal. I don't like her character at the moment.
The promos aren't great.
The promos aren't great. The character's annoying. The CEO chants are just really bad.
That bloody dance.
And the dance and stuff. But she's a great wrestler. But I guess when you have a match like the one she had at All In with Britt Baker, and even the wrestling doesn't come across as very good in that instance, then there's not really a lot there to sink your teeth into.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's facing Hikaru Shida at All Out.
Okay.
I know we've seen that match already a couple of weeks ago, but it should be a good wrestling match between two very good workers. So we'll see if there's a bit more chemistry there than there was with Britt Baker. Toni Storm, I think, has probably been the star of the AEW women's division, I would say, in the last year or two.
Yeah, definitely for the last year.
Yeah. The timeless Toni Storm gimmick. I mean, to me, at first, it came across as kind of a bit much at sometimes, but I respected how different it was. I respected the change in character it was for her.
Yeah, and she played the character so well.
Yeah. And we get Luther as well, who's great. We love Luther.
Yes.
Luther's fantastic. And then we got Mariah May, who came in and was a part of that, and it was all built very well. And then you had the side, on the side, you had Mina Shirakawa, who I think probably we're going to see a lot more of going forward.
Yeah. Mina.
Yeah, we want Mina, as the hashtag goes.
Yes.
And Toni Storm, I think she's facing Nyla Rose for the women's title on Dynamite.
Okay.
For some reason. So yeah, Mariah May versus Nyla Rose. I don't think they're done, her and Toni Storm. So I would like them to run that match back with a stipulation, if possible. So I think it's in a good place at the moment. I think we've had good performances from the likes of Willow Nightingale, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Julia Hart, before she got injured, I thought she was really good.
Oh yeah, I nearly forgot about her. Sky Blue.
Yeah. I don't know what's happened to her.
Injured.
Oh, she's injured. Oh yeah, she got injured on Collision, didn't she? Yes, she did. Yep. Very promising. We've got Deonna Purrazzo, Thunder Rosa, who I think there feels like there's like an unofficial roster split with the women at the moment, where you've got the likes of Thunder Rosa, Deonna Purrazzo, Queen Aminata, Serena Deeb on Collision.
Yeah.
And then you've got a core group of women like Toni Storm, Mariah May, Britt Baker, and Mercedes on Dynamite. So I think I'd like to see more of people like Thunder Rosa, Deonna Purrazzo on Dynamite, because that's the show that has the biggest viewership. That's where all the eyes are. That's where seemingly the most important things happen. So I'd like to see more of that. But that's just a minor criticism, because at the end of the day, they are getting TV time. Is there anyone you're kind of really excited for in the future in AEW's women's division?
You mentioned Queen Aminata there, actually. I hadn't seen her for quite a while, but she was on Collision last night in that Fatal 4-Way match.
Yeah, she was, wasn't she?
She's really good. Still a bit green, I think, maybe. But got a great look, great moveset.
Yep.
And she's actually quite good on the mic as well. So
there you go. This is I think this is something I've said before, and this is not a knock at all. But I think mic work in women's wrestling has always been a bit more of a struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know why.
No. But, like if I asked you who are the best promos in wrestling, you could reel off, MJF, CM Punk. You could reel off so many people. Swerve Strickland's great. Bryan Danielson's great. The Miz is great. So many people. But if I asked you who the best women's promo was, then the bar, I don't think is as high as, say, an MJF or CM Punk level of promo.
No.
And I don't know why that is. But you mentioned Willow Nightingale.
Yeah,
I think
Willow's
I
great.
think she's my favorite at the moment.
Yeah, you can feel the passion in there. It's yeah,
Yeah.
another level, really.
And it's natural as well. It's not forced. Like Becky Lynch, for example. I thought she had periods where she was good, but a lot of the times it feels forced. Like Liv Morgan, very forced.
Yeah.
Rhea Ripley, I think, is very good.
Yeah,
I think she's got
I
a
agree.
very good charisma to her, very natural. Charlotte Flair, I think, is good when she's a heel and rubbish when she's a babyface.
Yeah, I mean, same goes for Charlotte Flair overall. I think she's definitely a far better heel than a babyface.
Yeah. I think Charlotte Flair is one of those. She's amazing at everything when she wants to be.
Yeah.
Very kind of Brock Lesnar style. But yeah, more on Charlotte shortly.
Mm,
But yeah, women's promos, I think that the bar isn't as high. And maybe that's just because, historically you had Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Savage, men who've been given that time historically for years and years to kind of develop that sort of character work that inspires people.
yeah, there you go. I mean, do you think that's what it is? That women haven't been in that prominent spot that they are now for really very long at all.
Yeah, I think
So they've
so because
still got time to develop that.
yeah, I think it's because so women's wrestling only really got a priority relatively recently.
Yeah, it was sort of like mid 2010s, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
started to uptick.
yeah. Whereas proper women's character development probably started maybe just at the same time a bit after that, and that's a harder thing to do
Mm,
because you when you become a pro wrestler, you train physically for
yeah,
years coming up to that. But developing a character is a completely different skill set. It's basically being an actor or an actress.
yeah.
Um, Another
And a writer
person,
at the same time, I guess, kind
exactly,
of.
yeah. Especially if you write your own material. Another person I'd shout out is probably Bianca Belair. Currently, I think she's very confident. Jade Cargill, I think, is a good talker.
Yeah,
Um, so I think in a few years, those people are only going to get better, and we'll talk about some of the ones in NXT shortly. But let's move on to WWE.
mm,
So where's WWE's women's division at the moment? I think it's taken a little bit of a step back, if I'm being honest, where we are at the moment.
yeah,
Yeah, I think injuries haven't helped over the course
true.
of the past year or so. We've had Charlotte and Rhea injured. Becky's obviously gone away for a bit.
What is Charlotte doing now? Is she still injured?
Yeah, she's really almost there. Almost there. She had
Okay,
the big bad like 2 torn ligaments in the knee, I think.
damn.
So it's a good 9-monther. But she's almost ready to come back, I think. To the delight of some and not to others. It depends which Charlotte we get back. If
Well,
it's I
got a
mean,
spouse there now as well, so
yeah, always
not going
helps.
anywhere.
I mean, if we get the Charlotte who comes back day one and says, "Give me a title shot," and then fuck off,
Just
don't
gets one.
care.
It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, please
cashing in the Charlotte in the bank.
shoehorn into whatever feud's going on and
Yeah,
not purposefully making it worse, but just making it worse. It's not because she's bad,
no, she's
because
excellent.
it doesn't
Yeah,
make sense.
yeah. So we'll see what happens when we get Charlotte back. Yeah. So obviously the main focus of the women's division has been Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan because nothing happened on SmackDown, relatively speaking. Obviously we've had Nia Jax beat Bayley. Bayley had a really underwhelming women's title run.
Yeah, it was quite short.
Yeah, WrestleMania to SummerSlam. It was one of those typical babyface title wins where it's all about the chase and the reign just fails in comparison. Happens so often. So Bayley lost, and she actually came back for the first time since SummerSlam on SmackDown. We've got Tiffany Strand with Miss Money in the Bank, so that can kind of add some intrigue.
Yeah,
But for the most part, it's been Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan. That's what's doing the ratings. That's what everyone loves at the moment, and that's the hottest feud in the whole company in women's side. Everything else just doesn't really feel important at all at the moment.
no, it's sort of middling. I mean, and we've spoken about the women's tag division a
Yeah.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Still unsure whether it's best to just scrap them and do a mid-card title instead. I definitely think they can benefit from a mid-card title either way
Yeah.
because it's worked in AEW, it's worked in NXT, which we're going to talk about shortly.
Yep.
So there's no reason it shouldn't work on the main roster unless they book it into a black hole like they have with the tag titles.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And there's so many talented women who I think could benefit.
Yeah.
I think with the tag titles, I mean, they've been cursed from day one, haven't they? They've just been completely
And
useless.
thrown together teams are okay, but don't really have an expanse of established women's tag teams there, do you? You got
No.
what? Damage Control, Bianca and Jade, the Witches, and the Rave Girls. That's pretty much it. Oh, Pure Forehead as well. They're
Pure
coming in.
Forehead Collective, yeah. But like we say that women's wrestling was only really given a focus, probably like, between 8-10 years ago.
Yeah,
Women's tag team wrestling, that's an even newer concept.
definitely. Well, it did exist once back in the day, didn't it?
I think
Sure it did.
I think so, yeah. But I think in terms of modern day, when it kind of resurfaced, there's not a tag team like the New Day or the High or a women's tag team have been together for years and they've just been killing it in 10-time tag because they haven't had much time. It hasn't been around that long, so I don't know if they're going to persist with this and try and create a legacy for women's tag team wrestling. How long that takes, we don't know. I mean, are we going to see Jade and Bianca as a tag team together forever? No, because they're probably going to end up much better as singles wrestlers.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one. And I think I agree with you. The idea of a mid-card belt, whether it's one or whether they do like a women's US, women's intercontinental, because they got two brands.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women there who could benefit and elevate. Michin, Lyra Valkyria. I'm still putting my hat on Kiana James. And, you could throw someone like Dakota Kai in there if she can, stay injury-free. And I think that would serve those more than just being part of all these trios that have popped up recently. And so now we've got Jade, Bianca, and Naomi. We've got the Unholy Union, which is Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, and Blair Davenport. We've got Pure Forehead Collective, which is Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark. Lyra seems to have aligned with Casey and Katana, the Rave Girls. You've got Damage Control, which is Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane, and Io Sky. And I guess Asuka when she's back. So there's a lot of like women's trios that have just popped up in the last few months that have presented themselves as factions on TV.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this before. I don't know where this is going. And I don't really want to know where it's going because it doesn't sound like a good idea. And it feels like you're taking so many women's wrestlers who are great in singles and kind of sticking them in trios. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it. What about you?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
Often with those sorts of things, especially when there's three, there'll be a tag team and a singles. But putting so many women in, so many threes, they might have trouble separating the stories.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Separate the single going for a single title and tags going for a tag title.
You're just asking for shenanigans in every match, aren't you?
Pretty much. I mean, there's a danger of it getting samey, but at the same time, it is, getting more women on TV. I suppose you could look at it like that.
Yeah, that is true. There is more TV time. Whether it dilutes that TV time is a different thing because Monday Night Raw, for example, I think Monday Night Raw's been great. But outside of Rhea and Liv, the women's stuff just hasn't really done much for me. It seems we're still getting the whole 2-minute matches, people that not a lot of people care about, like the Foreheads. And I really like Lyra Valkyria and the Rave Girls. I really do. I think they're great. But they're not really presented very well on TV. So It's a difficult one. I think all their eggs are in one basket at the moment, especially on Monday Night Raw. Anything you're excited about in the near future for WWE specific women's wrestling?
Nothing really coming up. Maybe. Yeah. No, not maybe. Tiffy cashing in. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think Tiffany as women's champion will be great. I think she's actually been probably one of my highlights this year in women's wrestling, because she was great in NXT. You just, as soon as you saw her, you thought she's money. Like, she's going to absolutely kill it wherever she does.
Yeah.
And she started off quite nervous and shaky on the microphone, and that was gone within weeks. She's actually another one I put quite high up on the promo list, just in terms of her confidence. Chelsea Green as well. Shout out to Chelsea Green.
Great character.
Yeah, Tiffy came up. She was at the Elimination Chamber in the match. She was great. Won Miss Money in the Bank. She's going to cash in on Nia maybe before the end of the year. And I expect her to hold it to WrestleMania at least.
Yeah. That'd be good.
One thing I'm excited for, and I don't know when or how it can happen because of the current draft, but it's Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. That is the match that we need.
Yes.
That is the the biggest women's match that you could do that hasn't been done in its current state of WWE. Now, they're on different brands at the moment, and the draft is usually after WrestleMania. So might have to wait a while for it because it is a WrestleMania match. But I'm definitely looking forward to whenever that happens.
Absolutely. Bianca versus Jade as well. That'd be good.
Yeah.
When Jade's ready.
That's going to be an interesting one, yeah, because it is a case of when Jade's ready. And, I think they just keep doing what they're doing. I thought she looked good last. She looked good at Bash at Berlin. Who turns face and who's a heel will be good.
I think Jade would probably make a better heel.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, I have wanted to see Bianca as a heel again, but Bianca is so prominent in the community outside of WWE. Very much like John Cena was. So that's why I probably can't see them turning her heel. And, Jade's right there. So I think you're right. I think they go with Jade as the heel.
Yeah.
Jade can just run the angle of, you were a terrible teacher, I don't need you anymore, writes itself. We've seen that before, and it works, don't change a winning formula.
No, totally.
So that's where we are on WWE. NXT. Probably my personal favorite, I'd say, in terms of women's wrestling. What are your thoughts on NXT, Kronus, women's wrestling?
Got a huge wealth of talent there, haven't they? Or at least potential stars, definitely.
Yeah, rough diamonds everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. You got I mean, you know a lot more about it than I do, but even for me, tuning in sort of every couple of weeks or so, you got Sol Ruka, Fallon Henley, Tatum Paxley. You could just go on.
Yeah, and I will very shortly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's with NXT there is a great quantity there, and there's a good balance there between quantity and quality and potential quality. So, definitely. I mean, the standout is obviously Roxanne Perez, who is 22 years old, which is insane. Feels like she's been around forever.
Really does. She's been there since she was, 19?
19, yeah, I think so. I remember when she won the women's championship from Mandy Rose. Obviously, we know now why that happened. Because Mandy Rose was let go. But I think Roxanne Perez, for her age, has shown great maturity in and out the ring. She's done everything that's been asked of her. She's currently in this heel run, which, we never saw coming when we saw kind of like, innocent, lovable Roxanne.
Yeah.
I still think, the promos kind of need some work still. I think she's still trying to force it a little too much. But, this is NXT. This is young talent evolving as we're watching. So,
totally, yeah.
You kind of, she's like, you could argue she's like 6 or 7 years away from her prime. This is incredible to think about.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, not everyone carries on. There are lots of people who start off great when they're at a young age and then they don't quite make it. So it's a big thing to do. But yeah, Roxanne, she is the current champion. She's facing one of my other favorites, No Mercy, Jada Parker, who's kind of just came in, been wrestling for a couple of years. She played soccer, I think.
All right. Football.
Yeah, football.
Yeah.
It's football. God damn it. Jesus Christ.
You hit the foot with the ball.
Yeah, she played football. And again, she came in and she had this great charisma about her. And
Yeah.
I'm always excited when someone comes in and they're a good talker, good on the mic. Because if someone comes in and they look good in the ring, I'm like, well, anyone could do that. But have you got a good character?
Yeah.
If someone comes in and they've immediately got a good character, I'm thinking, okay, how are you in the ring? But that can be taught a lot easier. You can get better in the ring probably quicker than you can develop a character in some cases.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Jada's really good at both. And she's just got this really kind of arrogant attitude towards her. She comes across as vicious. She hits hard in the ring, not afraid to take some bumps. She had an amazing street fight with Michin. And again, I don't know how, I think she's quite young as well. But I'm really looking forward to their women's match on No Mercy, so I'm hoping it doesn't disappoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned Sol Ruka. There's Kalani Jordan, who's the North American champion in the women's division, also very young. And again, she's somebody who came from that sort of athletic background, a bit like Sol Ruka.
Yeah.
And again, needs a bit of character work, but this is exactly what they're there for. Yeah, if it's not working out in 2 or 3 years' time, you can probably say, all right, come on. We need some character work here. And it's also the birthplace of, I'd say, probably women's tag team wrestling, because I think the tag team titles were probably around before the main roster ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were.
Yeah, because it was a Toxic Attraction back in the day.
And they were when they defended on all brands, but
yeah,
mostly on NXT.
Yeah, I think so. It was a Toxic Attraction with Gigi, JC, and Mandy Rose. And now we've got Fatal Influence, which is JC Fallon and Jasmine Nix. Jasmine Nix is another one. She played football.
Yeah.
And, she's come in very athletic, good heel character. Doesn't talk much, but, she can go in the ring. And NXT is just full of these people. We've got Ren Sinclair, who's aligned herself with Charlie Dempsey in what I find quite a funny angle.
Yeah.
She's kind of begging to be part of the group, and she's just forced her way in there. And she's a really underrated technical style wrestler.
Yeah, she's really good.
Kendall Gray is another one. Very technical, like female Charlie Dempsey.
Yeah.
Not quite at the level of Charlie Dempsey, but in terms of the style of her wrestling, you can see what she's kind of trying to go for.
Yeah, no, decent.
There's just a really nice mix on NXT of, styles of wrestling. You've got mixtures of characters, mix of experience. And then you add in the fact that Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and Delta are likely arriving very soon.
Yeah, it's going to shake things up.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So I want to see, I want to see Stephanie Vaquer versus Kalani Jordan. And, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, but I want Kalani Jordan to get her ass kicked by Stephanie Vaquer, because that's the type of experience that people like Kalani are going to get, and it's going to do wonders for them. Same with Julia and Roxanne. I could see Julia dethroning Roxanne, and then Roxanne goes to the main roster. Julia holds the title forever, and just Julia has just banger matches with, Tatum Paxley, Kalani Jordan, Wendy Chu, Sol Ruka. The list goes on.
Down for that.
Yeah, I'm down for that. And I can just see someone like Julia, who's incredibly experienced, very good in the ring, works a very stiff style. It'd be like Asuka, wouldn't it, when she had that very long title reign?
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So Julia just having banger defenses, elevating younger talent, I think is a really good formula.
Yep. Worked before.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got those three coming in. There's just, and I think what's important as well is with Shawn Michaels is that every week you see like 2 or 3 women's matches, no titles involved. You get some tag matches, you get some 6-woman tags, you get some feuds that are just started with no title involved, which we haven't really seen much anywhere else, especially on WWE main roster.
Yeah.
AEW did a good example, I think, with Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo. It was mainly on Collision, but I guess you should say Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. It does have that CMLL title for some reason. Kind of wish it didn't, but it's something we haven't seen for a long time. But I think NXT do a lot of that, which is really good. Anything you're excited for with specifically for NXT? I know there's a lot in the future, but what excites you about NXT going forward, women's wise?
I mean, it is exciting as it is, no doubt. As I said, the wealth of talent there and the exposure that they're getting on TV. But I really do look forward to this trio coming in: Julia, Delta, and Stephanie Booker.
Yeah.
It is just going to shake it up, give them that sort of strong style experience, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it can only do good things for the brand, good things for the women already on that brand.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder once they come in, it makes you wonder who in the current NXT women's roster is going to be next for the main roster call up. And it's a weird one for me because the only one I can really think of are possibly Roxanne.
Yeah.
And maybe someone like a Tatum Paxley or someone. Because Tatum Paxley has amazing character work and she's really solid in the ring.
Yeah.
So someone like that, maybe. What about you? Anyone you've got your eye on when it comes to a call up?
Call up. I mean, the obvious is Roxanne Perez.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell, really. I'm not sure anyone's quite ready for it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think who's been down there for a long time. So you could say people like JC Jane and Fallon Henley, been there for a while, but they're sort of guiding Jasmine Nix at the moment, who's brand new to it. Cora Jade, who's missed so much action recently. She had obviously surgery and then she had a big injury. So we don't know what the state of Cora Jade is. Nikita Lyons, the same. But yeah, it'll be difficult. So I think the draft will be next May, I think, won't it?
Yeah,
usually like
so.
Yeah, happens before Backlash and then goes into effect after Backlash.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. And obviously we don't know which how many more new women there will be in the roster at that point. They seem to be bringing in people at quite a speed at the moment.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly. I think in terms of the moment, the things that I think struggle in NXT women's wise, I think is the promos to some degree. It is people learning. Some of the backstage segments are a little bit cringe, which is, I think to be expected. There are some times where I have to kind of wince. And that includes for some of the men as well with this Ashante stuff, who just, his gimmick is just saying, hey, you look nice.
That's best Ashante.
Yeah, a little bit cringe. NXT's always had that kind of wacky feel about it where 80% of it you're like, oh, this is great. And 20% you're like, what is this? It's kind of got that chaotic feel to it.
Yeah, it does.
So that's how I feel about NXT, and that's how we feel about the current state of women's wrestling.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know what your favorite is, who your favorites are, and what you would do better, as that is the biggest topic in all of wrestling for everything involved.
Indeed.
So that is going to be it for us, guys. We will be back. We'll possibly do some all-out predictions. And then our next episode is going to be how we would book the final year of John Cena in 2025. We'll try not to cry on that episode. It's going to be very emotional. Can't wait. Can't wait, Kronus, can you?
Just lose to everyone.
Exactly. Bury him on the way out.
No, it won't be that bad.
No.
I'm sure I can think of something.
No, it'll be exciting, and there'll be some great crowds for Cena's final matches. And there'll be some good stories as well. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the in-ring action will be as good as it once was, but it's his final year. We'll let him do what he wants.
Yeah.
I imagine we'll see him on the first Netflix episode. That is January 6th. That is confirmed as, by the way.
Big draw.
Yep. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.